Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of an experiment called Life with Alex McKenzie. That's me. As always, this episode is brought to you by Punchline Nutrition. Go check out Macho Fuel. It is our testosterone booster. Look, I designed the label myself. It's very powerful. It will give you very strong legs and arms. So go check that out, as well as Neuro Boost. So Neuro Boost is basically like a multivitamin for your brain. I take it before I do any writing, podcasting, comedy shows. Now, we don't guarantee it will make you smarter, but it will make you less dumb. So go to punchlinenutrition.com and check that out. As well, the Hunger for Laughs tour and the Never Been Better tour are both on sale right now. We're going all across Canada. So go to alextellsjokes.com, check that out. Use the coupon code ATJ at checkout, and you'll save a bit of money. Now, I'm very excited. Today's guest we have with us, she is a speaker and a coach at Next Level University. Please welcome Amy Lenius. Amy, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Alex. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very fun. So you specialize in coaching. So how long have you been coaching?
With Next Level University, so currently I partner with Next Level University, so I've been with them for 3 years, and then I did strictly women's health and women's health coaching for about 4 years leading up to that.
Oh, nice. And how did you get into coaching?
Oh, okay. So I grew up very sick myself. I grew up with a condition called endometriosis, very female driven, very chronic pain, lots of surgeries, pain and hormonal interventions. Long story short, it wasn't great. And it was a journey of being told, one, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. Welcome to being a woman. Two, oh, you're actually very sick. Here's a condition that you can never recover from. You're going to be in pain your whole life, probably never have children. And the best we can do is offer you this plethora of drugs and regular surgeries to help maintain it, which was obviously very depressing to hear.
Right.
And so it was a journey of, okay, going through the emotions of all of that, but then slowly starting to take control of my own health. And over, I mean, a good decade. I know everyone wants to hear I did this one thing and it was like, oh, now I'm better. No, it was like a decade of very consistent, unsexy fundamentals that got me pain-free from this condition. And I was able to have two children. And this story really took, I don't know, root in out west. That's where a lot of my public speaking started. So you're in British Columbia. I just moved from there a few years ago,
Yeah.
headed east, and I got to do a lot of public speaking based on women's health. And I had a keynote presentation called Holistic Healing for Your Hormones. And that's where I started to see that there was such a need for women to understand their bodies, whether they were sick or just dealing with regular cycles. And so I started coaching, I started a group program, I started a podcast myself for a little while. And then we moved across the country, and I was really focused on doing my program here. And I was really closely connected to Next Level University, the two guys there, Kevin and Alan. And
Yeah.
they are the founders of that. And they were coaching me, producing my podcast. And I sent one of my keynotes out to Alan, the CEO of Next Level University. And he's like, hey, would you like to come MC for us and do our live event with us? And I was really excited at the opportunity because I just respected everything they did in the world so deeply. And so I went down to the States. They're located in the States. And I did their emceeing, and it just proliferated from there. I have my own coaching program through them. I run and facilitate group coaching. The three of us do that together. And we also, I mean, we have book clubs, free master classes. There's all sorts of things that we do. And I partnered with them because I fell in love with the word holistic on my healing journey. And that was a really key point of everything I had to embrace to heal my body, that everything affects everything else. It wasn't just about one piece. It was about my internal environment, my external environment, all sorts of things. And then I've got these two guys over here saying, well, we can apply that kind of thing to our whole life. We believe in holistic success and holistic self-improvement, health, wealth, life, and their quality of life and love. And I loved that so much. And I could see what they were doing in the world and where I was seeing the gaps and what I was offering women, and where I could see women meeting the ceiling of things like self-belief and self-worth, and how that really hindered their journey of even just health. And so it was really neat to bring all of my work into this space, to partner with a couple of bros who are just genuinely awesome, and combine all of that and just be so not only supported but celebrated for my own work in this space, but poured into to continue to expand my knowledge and do it from this platform. It's been a really cool ride.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the adventure that you're on. So when you were sick, what was the first step? I guess you realize something's wrong, and then you go and see the doctor and they tell you what?
Oh, they told you, oh, this is normal. This is welcome to becoming a woman. This is so normal, having pain, being uncomfortable, bleeding for days and days and days and days on end. That's totally normal. It's like, oh my goodness, okay. I'll just go home and suck it up then. Thank you so much. And I tried that for a really long time. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I started having all sorts of inflammatory problems, pain outside of my regular cycle, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And finally, someone took me seriously. We did an exploratory surgery, which is the only way to diagnose endometriosis. And then it kind of went from there.
So where does the disease, like you said, they did an exploratory surgery. So where is the disease based in your body?
Yeah, so endometriosis is uterine-like cells. So you have your uterine wall, you have your endometrium, it's called. It's those cells just proliferating out to where they're not supposed to be. So it's
Okay,
like an uncancerous cancer.
right.
All of these cells just spread. They can go into your digestive system. Like mine really affected the nerves in my legs, unfortunately. There was all sorts of things, but it was, yeah, so they proliferate out and just be a pain in your ass where they're not
Do
supposed to be.
do do your epigenetic walls play into that at all? I read a book called Lifespan by David Sinclair, and he talks a lot about epigenetic noise and that aging, a lot of it is actually when cells end up where they're not supposed to be. So he had like a very good description where he said, like, picture your cells being like marbles,
Hmm.
down in each like crevice of your fingers here. And then epigenetic noise is like a little earthquake, a little shake. And then every once in a while, one of the cells pops over the wall to the wrong side. And then it's like, oh, hey, this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And then it starts causing issues like inflammation and all of that. So is
Hmm.
there what is the precursor to the disease? Do you know?
Yeah, they don't have anything specific. I have my own theories based on
Oh, yeah.
everything that I learned and everything that I went through. I believe there's a lot of environmental factors, and there's also a lot of internal factors as well. The second that a woman's hormones become imbalanced and we don't get the natural ebbs and flows, stuff happens. And it can come from our external environment, things like endocrine disrupting chemicals and stress is another really big one. And so typically there's an overabundance of estrogen because of a depletion in progesterone, and
Right.
that just wreaks a ton of havoc.
And then everything starts getting out of whack, and then you get
Yep. And then at
yourself
some point,
walking
it's
around.
like, yeah, it's like the chicken and the egg. At some point, it's like, we know what? We don't even know what started this feedback loop. We just need to get in there and try and support it.
Yeah. What did you find was the hardest part with getting a diagnosis?
Um, Probably the like medical gaslighting that is very prevalent in our Canadian medical system.
Right.
It's very much, nope, this isn't thing. You can handle pain. You can do this. It's okay. We don't like to diagnose. We don't like to, again,
It does seem
there's,
weird, hey, about that. Like,
yes.
so I right now have a herniated disc in my
Oh,
L5S1, so my lowest disc, it's like blown right out. Like it's really bad. And when I first went to the doctor about it, same thing. They really don't want to do anything. They're like, I remember the doctor's like, oh, go and do some physio. So I was like, man, like I go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week. Like I'm already like strength training. I'm not like sitting around all the time. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I did that. Kind of helped, not really. And then went back, and then he was like, well, I don't think you have a herniated disc. I think you have what he called piriformis syndrome. So
yeah.
it's like a muscle in your butt. And he's like,
Yep.
I think that is what you have. And that muscle can get tight and then it pushes on the sciatic nerve and it simulates that pain. So I think you just need to do more stretches and exercise. And that was, so I was like, okay, Alex, quit being a baby, just go hard. And I was like doing leg press all the time because I'm like, oh, I really need to like stretch my glute and
Yeah.
really push. And it was just getting worse and worse. And then like finally I got a new doctor and I was like, hey, like I really want to get an MRI. So like at least we have an idea what's going on. They did an X-ray at first and they're like, no, it looks fine. And then did the physio, and then yeah, finally got the MRI. And then they do the MRI, and they're like, "Yeah, this is one of the worst herniated discs we've squished completely flat." You're like, "Man, like you wait like it was like 18 months from the time I started
Yes.
complaining before finally I found a doctor that would just book an MRI. And my new doctor's been amazing. Like everything I've asked for was so good. And like from the time of getting the MRI booked to the MRI was like only a month. And then from the time of the MRI, I got into the pain clinic and got one of those like cortisone shots and they do a
Yep.
nerve block. And so I did that. And then now I'm waiting. I have an appointment with the spine clinic in about a month to try and get on a surgery list and stuff. But yeah, it is very it's very frustrating when you're trying to get a diagnosis. But then I mean that's only half the battle. Then like once you
It
do get the
is.
diagnosis, now where do you go from there? So what was their recommendation to you once you were diagnosed?
Just to do your best to manage your symptoms. Find
Yeah,
what works. Here's a bunch of different kinds of birth controls. Here's a bunch of different kind of pain meds. See what works and off you go. There's nothing we can really do. Every now and again we can go in and do a surgery and cauterize all of the extra cells out, but they're going to grow back.
yeah,
And yeah, so it was a cycle of that for a really long time. And then in my early 20s, I was like, okay, I feel like absolute crap. I am on so many different drugs and
yeah,
I still am so sick all the time. And now I'm having all of these side effects from all of these different medications. So I just had this moment where like, I'm going to go off everything.
right.
Everything. Start from scratch just to get to know my body again, see what's working, see what isn't. I myself was in school for anatomy and physiology at the time to be an RMT. And so I was learning so much about the body and learning so much just about my own condition and things that I just went out and got curious about what else could I do. And I'm sorry about your disc, by the way. That's the worst. I
Oh,
also
that
herniated L4, L5, L5S1.
yeah.
Ow. Ugh.
What was your solution? What fixed?
Same. It was a lot of, okay, well, let's see if it's what I think it is. Let's go see if I can get a diagnosis. Same. So long to get any sort of test to confirm what I needed to know. And then it was a lot of yoga,
Right. And
a
did
lot
you
of
when you like strengthened your core and everything, it fixed it?
Yeah, there's a lot of specific kinds of yoga. Like you can't just go do regular yoga. I had specific videos that were yoga for low back that just really help open up those. But I didn't have a full blowout. So there's different severities of herniated discs. When
Yeah.
they're just bulging out, you can kind of support them to go back in. When
Yeah.
one is fully blown and all the fluid is leaked out and everything like yours, that's a different ball game.
Yeah. So, because the first time I would have herniated was doing deadlifts when I was in my mid 20s. And
Hmm.
that it did fix itself. Like it was, because I never went, I was like, I'm a 20-year-old dude. Like, I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. I just was in extreme pain for like a week where I could barely walk. Then it started getting better and better. And eventually it kind of fixed itself. But yeah, this one has been, because there's been no acute injury. Like
Hmm.
over the last 3 years, it's just progressively getting worse and worse and worse. And yeah, so I do. That's the thing. They always try to say, what do they call it? Like you're just trying to reinflate the disc, right? Like you're trying to
Yeah.
get, they always picture it like a jelly donut where it's been like
Yes.
jelly squeezed out or whatever. And you're like, get it back in there. But yeah, so yours just kind of came back in through yoga and then
Yeah.
been good since.
Yeah, well, no, it flares up. I have to be
Right.
really, really careful. And I can just feel when it's about to go again, years of trial and error of, oh, there it goes. It flared up. I'm down for a week. Crap, do
Right.
the yoga, do the, I'm so grateful to have the knowledge I have of the spine, of the pelvis. And that was kind of my niche when I was practicing. But it's like time, energy, and effort. You have to slow down. And that's what's hard. So now I've learned that if I can be proactive, instead of
Right.
going from 0 to 10, re-injuring myself, having to go back and doing all the overswings, just to stay mindful of it, be really conscious of when it is starting to flare up and do those things beforehand. Because
Yeah.
I've had times where I'm like doing up my shoes and that's it. It's
Yeah.
done. It's done. Mummy's on the floor. I've got my two boys like, oh no, what do we do? And the best thing I can do is just wait until someone can get me into a, elevated leg position and I'm stuck there for days and days.
Yeah.
But as I've healed and as I've strengthened and I've also started weightlifting and stuff now myself progressively, it is getting better and better. And if it does flare up, the time that it puts me down is shorter and shorter and shorter. So again, that unsexy fundamental of just time, energy, and effort.
Yeah. I think that the talk about being like proactive. I think that's just a good framework for life in general, right? Like I noticed, like I always struggle with anxiety all the time, and you're
Hmm.
always just so nervous, but it's always when I have things I need to do that I haven't done. Like if you just let too many things pile up and then eventually it just seems overwhelming, and then you start getting worried and you don't even know where to start. So it's like as soon as you start getting worried about something, if you can just take a couple steps in that forward action to start breaking that pile down a little. You know what I always picture life is? I picture life as like walking through life pushing a wheelbarrow and people are constantly just dumping stuff in your wheelbarrow. And then it's just getting harder and harder and harder to push. And you have to come up with a way of unloading that wheelbarrow. You have to find some sort of tool. I found when I was younger, meditation was very valuable. If I could just sit down and meditate and clear my mind, it would help me like, okay, offload a bunch of this stuff that I'm carrying and like let it go. And then I'm like, hey, my wheelbarrow's got more room to take on more stuff. And yeah,
Hmm. And I love that analogy a lot, actually, because there's so many ways that, yes, people are piling things on, but as you build the mental capacity and the strength, you can offload what's not supposed to be there, what
right.
is from other people, and you can build the strength that you need to put things in there that actually matter to you. And
Yeah,
I like that a lot. And I find typically with overwhelm, people are like, oh, I'm so busy. There's too much going on. I'm so overwhelmed. If you can slow someone down, it's actually more about what they're not doing versus what they are. And they're
yeah,
not doing enough of the things that really matter. And they're doing too much of the things that are just busy work.
right. Yeah, I find yeah, the wheelbarrow thing I said, people piling on. To be honest, most of the time was me filling my own wheelbarrow with a bunch
Absolutely.
of
We're
crap.
constantly doing that to
It's
ourselves.
constantly me filling stuff that I don't need. But yeah, the other one was sorry, I just had a brain fart. We went what were we talking about? The ADD, oh, not doing the stuff. So you were
Hmm.
saying not doing what you need to do. I find a lot of the time Uh, for myself, it's that, but it's honestly one of the biggest changes was just quit doing certain things. Like I found, like I'm naturally a pretty like doer. You're like, oh, like go out and do stuff. So one of my exes pointed it out to me. She was like, I don't think you need to worry about like doing more work and like doing the thing. She's like, you just need to not do certain things, like like video games. Like I would just get hooked on video games and you just play those a ton. Or drinking. Like I struggled with alcohol and drugs my whole life. And it was always like, if you could just stop doing these few things, like naturally, you're gonna fill that time with productive things because you're like, yeah, you're not a sitter stiller, It's like you go and do stuff. So once I found that out, I found it's almost more important for me to not do certain things rather than focus on doing things because eventually you just get bored. Like you sit there and you're like, all right, not doing anything. And then I'll just go to my computer and be like, okay, I can do this marketing campaign or I can, write a couple of these jokes or post this podcast and do stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, it is really important to be able to identify what key things that you're doing consistently aren't actually optimal for where you want to be, what you want to do, who you want to be, where you want to go. And letting go of those things, like you said, automatically can give you space to be filled with things that are more aligned.
Right. You talk about that, I don't know if growth is the right word, but growth doesn't always feel good or
Mm.
progress doesn't always feel good. Can you go into that a little?
Absolutely. And I mean, even someone like yourself who's a really, go, go, go kind of guy, very high self-belief kind of guy, if we want to go into that. But how hard was it to sit still in meditation initially?
Yeah, it was extremely difficult. It still is. Like one
Yes.
of my best quotes I heard about meditation is a guy says, he goes, I meditate for 30 minutes every day. Unless I'm really busy, then I do an hour.
Hmm.
And it's like the inverse, And that's what I always found interesting about meditation is that so many people go, oh, I can't do it. I can't just sit still and think about nothing. And I go, I don't think anyone can. Like your brain is designed to think. That's your brain's job. It's just constantly designed to think. And it's really, really hard to get it not to. And that's like the whole art of meditation is you like pick a focus like your breath. And then it's like, how quickly can you recognize that you're no longer focusing on your breath and you're on something else? And then you stop and then be like, okay, back to the breath. And I will tell you, like, I've never made it more than 3 breaths.
Yeah,
I've
same.
never made it more than like in, out. It's like breathing in, noticing I'm breathing in, breathing out, noticing I'm breathing out. I
Then the
can't do
hamster wheel
that
starts
three
going.
times before something comes in. And then you just, how quickly can you realize you're like, oh, I'm thinking about going to the gym later. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
stop, don't do that. And then
yeah,
comes back. And then you'll like make it 2 breaths. And you're like, hey, remember that time you pushed your brother down the stairs? And you're like, hey, stop, don't do that. And then you'll like focus. And you're like, remember the time that girl broke your heart? And you're like, okay, stop, don't do that. And I found one of the most interesting realizations that I had that really shows like that our perception creates our reality was that depending on which thought I attached my focus to, my day would have been extremely different. Like if I
hmm
focused on a very fun day that I had out at the lake with my friends and family, I'd have a very joyful demeanor about me for the day. But if I focused on, times where I was in a dark place or using drugs and alcohol or where I was mean to a family member or a girl broke my heart, those are all very different paths that like, would set the tone for my day. So when you start realizing, you're like, okay, start trying to find the valuable thoughts and stick to those and push away the other ones. But I guess I don't know. The whole thing is like you're not supposed to stick to any of them. But yeah.
Yeah. Again, you find what works for you, but the things we don't want to do are typically the things that are going to get us to that next level.
Yeah.
And so, no, growth doesn't always feel good. I mean, you see things online all the time where it's like, okay, personal development, it's all love, light, and momentum and things. I'm like, oh, you're missing the key part where it actually sucks. It's actually really hard to shift beliefs and to tap into your identity of where you feel shame, where you felt shame, how it came out of you. Was it a line? Did you cause an argument? What does that look like? Is that a pattern that you want to keep doing? No, probably not. Because if we wanted to keep doing the things that we were already doing, we wouldn't be trying to grow and change,
Right.
right? The things that we want to achieve, our core aspirations, our goals, they need something more of us than what we currently already say, think, do, feel, believe. And to change those is challenging. It
Right.
really is. It's worth it. Absolutely, it's worth it, but it is challenging. And then you go and you, again, online just paints so many delusional pictures where it's okay, you don't need to heal, or maybe people are saying, okay, you absolutely need to heal. And once you heal this, once you do this, you're fixed.
Right.
No, those things are always going to be there. Your
Yeah.
triggers, your shame, your core wound, especially the one that, oh my gosh, that runs us so much. It's always going to be there. Those are a part of you. It's how you learn to navigate it in your life that makes the difference because those things are constantly running us unconsciously. They're literally driving the bus of our life. But if we can recognize what it is, when it occurs, and start taking conscious control of that, which is challenging to do. And it's not always fun, it's not always pretty. But when you can start making challenging, more aligned choices and start driving the bus yourself and tell your core wound to take a back seat, it's okay. That's real growth and that's real progress. And that's when you'll start seeing a clearer path to whatever your version of success is.
Right. Something that I find difficult with going through hard times is, but this is more on like a spiritual level because I'm a God guy, and I always picture it when you're struggling and it's really hard. Is that how do you know the difference between a sign of like, hey, I shouldn't be doing this, or hey, you're close to a breakthrough and this struggle is growth? Because sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I just being an idiot? Like I've struggled so hard with becoming a professional comedian. Like that's my only source of income. That's all I do. I quit a 6-figure job. I sold everything, my house. I bought a van, started touring around with my dog. And it's just been a lot of struggle. And I've lost everything. Like I lost all the money I had from my house. I lost all the money I had from my mill pension. I lost all of that. I took out a business loan. I lost that within 3 months, $60,000, and just losing everything. And you're like, in your mind, you're like, this is gonna work. Like, just keep going. Just Dory, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And you're like, it's gonna work. Just keep doing it. And I always wonder, if the losses are like God is like, dude, I'm trying to tell you, you're doing the wrong thing. Like I could not make this any clearer that you're on the wrong path. But at the same time, one of my favorite books is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And it's constantly like the closer you get to your breakthrough or your goal or what you're trying to achieve, the harder it gets and the more obstacles you have to overcome. So, do you have any advice on how you can tell when the suffering is telling you to change direction or if it's telling you, like, hey, you're on the right path, keep going?
Yeah, what a powerful question.
I know.
Because
I know.
there is so much resistance to get to the goal that you want to achieve. And I think that's another, you know, picture that gets painted so poorly nowadays because everyone wants instant gratification and everyone tells you, oh, this journey is from A to B and you can be successful by doing XYZ from A to B and you're done. It takes 2 weeks. No. There's so much more to that. And I think when we meet resistance and we've seen it displayed somewhere else that it was easy, when we meet resistance, we think, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with that I am not capable of this thing. But in reality, you just either haven't given yourself enough time, enough awareness. People constantly overestimate what they can do in a day. How often do you say, okay, I'm going to get these 10 things done, and you get like three done? It's like, ah, shit. But how often do people underestimate what they can do in years? We're
Right.
not thinking in years anymore. We're thinking minute to minute to minute to minute.
And the
And
micro to the macro.
there are so many hurdles and things along the way. And like you said, you've gone through all of this thing, but you still have this drive to do your thing.
Hmm.
You wouldn't actually have fought so hard to do the thing that you're doing if you weren't meant to do it.
Right.
Right? And so there are so many nuances I mean, you're basically on your own version of an entrepreneurial journey. It's
Yeah.
its own version of that. And there are so many things that go into that that are challenging, that do need to, we need to learn, we need to grow, we need to learn to communicate, we need to learn to market. That's another one. Like you said, there's so many things in there. And if we're avoiding certain parts of that because they make us uncomfortable or we don't understand them, we're going to hit hiccups along the way. But it's such a skill. And I really feel like I'm not even giving a clear answer here because it is such a skill to be able to tell, is this aligned resistance?
Right.
Or is this because it is not something I am capable of doing or meant to do? And again, the capability thing, that's even right there. That's just a barrier. I'm not capable of doing this yet. We can
Yeah.
always become more capable.
Yeah.
Always, right? There's always room for growth,
I think
expansion,
you
knowledge.
mentioned earlier about like time and effort, and I always use that as like a framing for like I believe that anyone can do anything in life. I mean, there's obviously like certain ceilings or barriers or but I believe we all have different starting points. But I
Mhm.
believe that time and effort create our trajectory. And then it's
Yes.
like how much effort we put in over how much time, and then it's like you can go from here to here. And I learned a lot of that. I cared from sports. I played competitive hockey growing up. And then the guys who made it the furthest weren't the best when we started, but they were the ones who never stopped. Like they just kept getting better and better and trying harder and harder. And, when there were some guys who went and played junior B and everyone was like, oh, that's the end of the line. Like junior B is like so junky. Like you're not even in the WHL. You're not like you're wasting your time. You're going to go there. But then they just stuck with it and all the way through. And, then they were junior A, then they were playing college or pro, and then playing in the minors and yeah. And it
Mhm.
just showed that, oh, this time and effort thing.
Time, energy, and effort with consistency. That's all that is. It really is. Some people, yes, are born with more natural skills and different ways of thinking and stuff, but they will always be beat by the people who can be consistent and outlast them.
Yeah.
And we're now in a society where people are so skewed on their timelines that the people who just are continuous and can be consistent and to grow, evolve, and like again, just little bits every day will absolutely succeed over people who give up too soon. And more people now than ever are giving up too soon. So in any game right now, it's a lasting game. It's a
Yeah.
lasting game while you can build your value along the way. Can you outwork other people? Can you
Right.
be more consistent than other people? Can you slightly grow yourself every day more than the average person? Then you will win. And unfortunately, right now, that is not that hard to do anymore.
Right. Yeah, I know.
There,
You see that thing with Dana White always talks about it, where he's like, dude, he's like, it's never been easier to be successful because he's,
yeah.
he's like, yeah, he's like, everything's up for the taking and no one wants to take it.
It doesn't mean it's not hard to
Right.
get, but it's still, if you can give yourself, again, just the gift of time and do whatever you have to do financially in the meantime while you fuel your dreams, support your dreams, whatever that is. And then, yes, over time it does shift.
You know what
But
I
it's a,
use for framing for time that always makes me feel so excited and so much more hope is I always go, because I quit my job to do comedy. It's been almost 7 years, basically when I was 30. And what I do is I look at where I started to where I am now. Like when I first started, I was performing in pubs and bars to maybe 15 people you would get at a show. To
yeah,
like this last weekend, we just did Kamloops and sold just about 1,000 tickets for last weekend. So you look at like the growth there over the last, say, 6.5 years. And then what I do to remind myself how much time I have is I go, say that I only wanted to do this until the retirement age of 65, which I'm never going to stop. Like I'll do comedy till the day I die. I hope I die on stage. That would be fun. Um, but then I look and I go, so just to keep numbers square, I'm 37, but to make it easier, just go 30 years. So say that I had 30 years left of this working. I go, look how far you've come in 6. Now, where do you think you could be if you keep up this pace for another 30 years? And to give yourself an idea of how long 30 years is, I always tell people, where were you 30 years ago? Picture
yeah.
that. And I go, dude, I was in kindergarten. And it's like, yeah, imagine at that age if you decided this is what you were going to do and you worked this hard every day until now, where would you be? I'm like, dude, I'd be selling out arenas. Like it would be crazy. And so then I just always look at that time frame and go, that's how much time you have again. Because I think
Mhm.
a lot of us think we don't have enough time. And you realize you've got a lot. Like there's a
You
lot.
You really do. And most people's careers don't even take off until their 40s. Your
Mm,
20s and your 30s are your building years.
yeah.
They really are. How many people, and I urge you to do the same in your field, let's say, or if you're listening at home in your field that you're trying to build, how many people's names weren't even on the map until they were in their 40s?
Hmm.
And you think, oh, they were an overnight sensation. No, what were they doing a decade or 2 decades leading up to that?
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Well, that's where I look at um, people who are very successful at a young age. Like there's some like that Gymshark kid, he was like 33, I think, when he became a billionaire or something like that, maybe 31 even. And then like, for comedy, there's like Matt Rife. Like Matt Rife is like one of the biggest names in the world for comedy right now, if not the biggest. And but you look at those guys and they started so young. Like
Mhm.
Matt Rife started doing stand-up when he was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and he just worked and worked and worked. And you look at like that Gymshark kid, same thing. So where I look, like my 20s, I was just figuring out who I am. Like I
Mhm.
wasn't building anything. It was just me like trying to figure out what do I like, what do I not like, what do I like to do? And you're like, and it's all trial and error, and you're trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's one of the biggest hurdles. Like the people who are successful young, I think they're just the ones who figured that out really quickly. They figured that out by the time they're 18. Somehow they're an old soul or something.
Yeah. Or they're just the anomaly. There's always an anomaly somewhere, but it's not the average,
Hmm.
right? So, yes, we want to see what the anomalies were, but we don't want to take that as that's the only way to be
Right.
successful in this thing. And I missed my chance.
Right.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
What is your thoughts on luck? Like, what is your belief on luck?
It's so funny. I don't know if I have a belief on luck. I deeply believe that we absolutely can create our own luck. So, for example, it's one of my favorite, but also least favorite things when someone comes up to me and says, oh, you're doing this and this with NLU. You're so lucky. Am I, or did I work really hard to become the person that could be at this level with these guys?
Hmm.
Or when women come up to me, be like, oh my gosh, your husband, you're so lucky to have such an involved husband. Am I? Or did I just have high enough standards to choose a really good man and a really good partner?
Yeah, I know. I always find that with luck as well, because I always thought that's the same thing. Like I remember when I quit my job, so many people were like, "Man, I wish I could quit my job and just go drive around in a van telling jokes." And I remember I'd always be like, "Dude, you can't come with me." I'm like, "I'll show you. If you go tell that lady right there, I'm like,
Yeah.
tell her you're never coming in again, and you don't have to be here, you know." And it was then people would go, "Well, you don't have a family and I have a family." And I go, "Yeah, you think that was like not by design?" Like I knew I wanted to do something. And I had some very good chance, some very amazing women in my life who, wanted to do that. And I
Hmm.
had to say no. And then that's something that carries on my shoulders going, did I make the wrong choice? Like, look at here you are, live in a van in Flin Flon, Manitoba, in a Walmart parking lot, staring at the ceiling. And you're like, oh man, maybe I made a mistake. But it was all just choices along the way. But at the same time, I found with luck, because I would say I like to believe that I've worked really hard, and that's why I am now getting to perform in these large theaters. But at the same time, I go, I could have done everything that I've done now, and it could have not worked.
Hmm.
You know, like I could have, like I got very lucky during COVID that my TikTok kind of took off and that started going well. But again, I was writing 5 jokes every day and I would pick the dumbest one, which was my favorite one, and I would post that every day. And then they started getting traction and it started growing. And I always picture that because I've gone through stints with social media where like I can't get my videos to get over 1,000 views. I've had other times where it's like have a bunch in a row getting over 1 million. And I'm like, what is the difference? And I can't tell you. Like I'm like, I don't know. Those one people just like those ones and it just went well. So I always try and, you know, kick myself off my high workhorse a little bit and go, well, Alex, you could have done everything and it could have not worked. So there is some element of luck or something, you know?
Hmm. You said the word though. You said every day.
Yeah.
You said every day. And that is the piece that people miss.
Hmm.
People struggle to be consistent and to be consistent in something that really matters to you and really gain traction and really leverage the compound effects. It takes doing something every day. So you will always beat out someone, again, that time, energy, and effort, time being the really key important there, over someone who only posts 3 times a week.
Right.
You just will over time. They might go viral once and then it'll fleet out if they're not being consistent and they don't do something with that. You doing something every day is the key point. And that's the reason I'm healthy from a condition that I was told I would have my whole life and never have kids and be in pain every day. It's because I was consistent in the things that I learned mattered most to leverage the result that I wanted.
Right.
And we can do that in anything. We talked a little bit behind the scenes about what I think 3 key pillars are, not only to success, but fulfillment and aligned success and building the identity of the person who can carry it along the way. One of them is consistency. And it's a really simplistic formula to build consistency, but it doesn't mean that it's easy
Hmm.
because nothing worthwhile rarely is easy,
Yeah.
especially to keep doing it over time.
I saw Huberman talked about like any cheap, easy source of dopamine will end up destroying you in the long run.
Yeah.
He's like anything that you don't have to put in a substantial amount of effort to get the reward, eventually that's going to be the thing that actually destroys you.
Yeah, because it's short-term happiness and pleasure versus fulfillment. Those are two very different things. Fulfillment, building fulfillment is rarely the easy, superficial choice, but it
Yeah.
builds something really deep, more deep and meaningful.
Yeah. Well, actually, again, another one is like Peterson talks about undeserved reward, where he's
Mm,
like, you don't want undeserved reward. Like it almost feels gross or like not good. Like if people are praising you or you're getting reward for something that you didn't even really do.
yeah,
It's
you'll
like,
have an
oh,
identity crisis.
yeah,
Yeah, it builds this level of imposter syndrome that will kick you in the ass at some point. It really will, because you'll get to a certain level and you won't even know how you got there, and you also won't know how to maintain it and continue to build it if you got there on, again, like say you go viral accidentally and you're expected to keep doing all of these things. Well, that wasn't you didn't do that on purpose, let's say. I know people try to, and sometimes it happens, but you didn't build the skill to get there. It's
yeah,
like throwing me into saying, okay, Amy, I'm going to throw you into hiking Mount Everest. It's going to be fine. No, it's not.
Right.
No, it's not. I have to train and become the person who can handle that level of commitment and challenge.
Right.
And if you're not taking those steps along the way to actually get there, you're going to have an identity crisis and you're not going to be able to make it to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always picture with comedy, I always say, I'm gonna get famous when I'm ready, or like it's really gonna blow up when I'm ready, because I do picture like when you get that opportunity and everyone's listening, I'm like, are you saying the things you want to be saying on stage? Do you have the skill set to actually, have this be out there? And that's one of the things I find that's so fun with comedy is every few years you have to rewrite your new hour
Yep.
and you have to build a new show. And then you're
Yep.
always trying to top the last show. And I always picture during that time, because I released my second special back in April, and you're like, if that did go extremely viral and blew up and everyone wanted to come and see you, I'm like, you don't have a new hour. Like, I don't have, what am I just going to do that hour that they just saw? And
That's right.
they're going to be like, dude, we just watched you do all this already. So then you're like, okay, now I've got to build this new hour. And that's the part that I'm in now. And I find it so rewarding because it's so challenging every time. And
Mhm.
as you're getting better, it's always like, you have to suck to get better. You have to be willing to fail and look stupid. And that's the
Always
thing
has to be.
about comedy is like now I'm trying to write my third hour and you're like, I don't know if any of this is funny. And I'm trying to have, there's I want to be saying something up there. I get so I'm very envious of certain comics where I watch them and like they're saying stuff, like they're like taking on world views and they've got these big insightful pieces and they're doing stuff. And then I'm up there like, my mom fell off a lawn chair. Like it's like, what the hell are you? You're just a clown. But then that's where again I find it so good, such a good form of self-discovery because you get to go, well, every day I get to write like who is Alex McKenzie and what is it like to be Alex McKenzie? And then I
Mhm.
do look at some of the stuff like where I'm like, there's enough people out there doing a lot of the like taking on these worldview stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe my job is just to make you laugh, like just to be a clown and be like, hey, we can forget about the world for this hour and we can just look at how funny and silly life can be. And so, but then you have to start again an identity crisis. Well, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then even when I first started, I was doing so much about quitting my job to chase a dream, but I'm like, am I meant to just be a motivational speaker? Is that what I'm meant to do instead of comedy? And it was yeah, it was a lot of back and forth and figuring it out. And I don't know if you ever figure it out. Who knows? Maybe you figure it out, then you die. Maybe that's how life works. By the time
Maybe.
by the
I
time
think
you
you get
do.
a little closer all the time. Again, with trial and error.
Mhm.
Trial and error. You're expanding and then you're honing. You're expanding new awarenesses, new things, trying new jokes. Let's keep using you as an example. And then you hone what worked, what didn't. So you're honing. And then you expand again, trying new things, new places, new things, new ideas. Oh, some worked, some didn't. So you hone. You're doing
Yeah,
this all the time. What's really important is to notice what the through line is of that, because
right.
that's typically what you truly value.
When you say through line, what do you mean by that?
So for me, let's say I have been through multiple different types of professions. I started off in school as a massage therapist and I ran a practice for a little while and that honed into I loved working with pre and postnatal care for women and I loved doing a lot of low back and pelvic balancing. So I honed in there. And sometimes when someone would come in with a knee injury, I'd be like, it's been a while since I looked at a knee. So then sometimes I would even refer them to a different practitioner because I knew that they could do better than me because I had honed in on this thing. And then I started realizing, oh my goodness, I am expanding my knowledge of women's health outside of just, muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, bones, things like that. And so I started speaking more on that as well. And that kind of took me away from massage therapy. I ended up injuring my back and it was all this whole universal thing. I was like, well, I can't practice anymore. And I've kind of have traction over here with natural wellness and starting to speak again in small rooms. Started very small And then it kept getting bigger and bigger. And again, you honed in. And then I expanded. I tried, podcasting for a little while and built out my own program. And that honed into something really special. Then I met with NLU. And oh my gosh, we're just expanding and doing this again. And now we're honing in NLU and what that means for me, myself, Kevin, the three front facing people of this company now. But the through line of all of that is I love to empower and educate people.
Right.
And that came through in all of it. Even when I look back in high school, when they said, you know what, that's so you just performed at my old high school, which I think is just so funny. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
were in Kamloops at the Sagebrush Theater. That's the high school I went to, which I
yeah,
think is just so neat because I even rarely meet people from Canada on these podcasts. It's usually a lot of Americans
yeah,
and things. So it's rare when you come across another Canadian and then someone who has literally been in your high school in the last week or so.
yeah.
So neat. Um, but even in high school, so when they asked me, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? I always wrote a mom. I wanted to be a mother. And they're like, well, that's not really a career. What do you actually want to do when you grow up? And that was always my answer. And I always was so pissed that that wasn't the answer that they would allow me to have. And
Right,
so I started writing teacher.
right.
I loved the idea of educating. And I
Yeah,
homeschool my kids now, actually. So I get to kind of do that as well. But even there, every teacher I interviewed after that, because you're supposed to go and interview the people who have the job you want and see about it, every one of them told me not to do it.
right.
They all hated their jobs.
You know what I find that's funny? I find that about most people won't tell you to go into their profession, but they
Yeah.
do it, which is, I think, them lying to themselves. I think I could be wrong, but like when you talk to comedians, every comedian will try and talk you out of becoming a comedian. And they go, no, dude, it's, low pay, terrible hours. You're constantly traveling. You can't build an intimate relationship because you're on the road so much and you're just around, nightlife and drinking and partying all the time. And they're like, there's nothing about this that you should want to really do. But then they go and do it. So I'm like, well, obviously you're lying. Like it's obviously rewarding and fulfilling
That's
because,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's obviously there's been some sort of worth it factor along the way for them,
right.
right? Or people really start to feel like they're stuck.
Yeah.
People don't feel like they can make changes. So when we started saying, okay, we're moving from Kamloops to across the country to some small little teeny tiny town in Eastern Canada, everyone was like, what about Chris's job? What about what you're doing? What? Oh my gosh, you can't just leave. We did.
Yeah.
It's great. It's fine. Now, again, there should be things in place for you, but even then, we didn't have jobs when we moved across. I mean, I always worked from home after I gave up my practice, but we knew Chris would find a job here. That's not, it's a non-issue. Like, but people feel like they're stuck. They're stuck in their career. They're stuck in their town. They're stuck with their people. They're stuck in their relationships. They're stuck with everything. But that right there comes from low self-belief. The people who can get out believe in themselves. They believe in their capability to create results in the external world. It's self-efficacy. That's what self-belief is. And people who have high self-belief tend to take more risks because
Right.
they believe that whatever comes, they're going to be able to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty standard for the most part. It's so funny because I thinking back of it, that was like the biggest hurdle. Like I always said I was gonna quit my job. I always said I'm quitting. And I remember everyone at the mill would be like, and what are you gonna do? And I'd be like, I don't know, but it's not this. And I remember, and it would be so frustrating because I just knew I wasn't gonna stay there, but I didn't really know what I was going to do yet. And one of the guys left like a crypto quote on my desk. He used to always do crypto quotes and he left it there and it was really cool. But it said, the first step to getting somewhere is knowing you're not going to stay where you are.
Mhm.
And it was like, that was it. And then, but I find it so interesting because that's like step one, but it's such a hard step. I remember when I first quit my job to do comedy, I talked to Daryl Lennox. He was a great comedian, very successful. And he said, you've already done the hardest part, which is
Yeah.
deciding that this is what you're going to do. And he's like, the rest, it'll come. But then now it's just been such a struggle even since then. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the thing is you just have to believe it's going to work out, right? Like all the time, I'm just like, yeah, it's going to work. Don't worry. you've been in this exact situation 100 times before, crying on the floor with no money, trying to figure it out, but like you're gonna be okay. And I don't know. I don't know. I guess like I always think you just have to be delusional. You know, you just gotta believe that somehow it's all gonna work, even if there's no evidence for it. And that's actually what that gym chart kid said. Because he said in order to get from a million to 10 million, then 10 million to 100 million, 100 million to a billion, he's like, you have to make some crazy decisions. Like he said, to get from 100 million to a billion, I think he said, that are not founded on any evidence. There's no, data or statistics to back the decision you're making to show that it's going to work. You just have to have this belief. And he's like, and you have to risk all of it to try and get there. And it's like, so terrifying thinking of risking everything every time. And that's what I always wonder with, because that's how I do for producing these shows. Like it's very expensive to like rent these theaters, put on these shows and do it all. Like I'm burning my bank account to zero all the time. Like I literally get it down till you're like, okay, pay the deposits, pay all the stuff. I'm like, hey, you have $800 left in your entire account, and then I would fill my RV up with gas. I would fill my fridge up with food. I would take the last $500 I had and I would spend it all on Facebook marketing to market the next weekend's event. And then as soon as I got paid from that event, I would then pay for a future show, refill the van up, and then refill the fridge, and then risk it all again. And you're like, eventually, this is gonna work. Just keep going.
Yeah, so the power in that is belief combined with action, right? We can't just believe. We need to back up that belief with action so that we keep supporting that belief. Belief combined with action, but also the goal at the end. Even if it's just, okay, the next show is the goal. The next show is the goal. Because the next show, because you have that goal, it dictates who you are now. That's the thing. The goal helps dictate what persons, places, things, ideas are good, are not good.
Hmm.
It can, if you allow it to, if you can build the skill of seeing that. The second you have a goal, it dictates and changes everything. You have to change literally to meet that goal. And so it's really, really valuable to have all three, the belief, the action, and knowing where you're going so that the goal actually dictates the belief and the action.
Right. It's almost like working backwards, kind of.
Yeah,
Do you do that for any goal setting, like reverse engineering? You're like, oh,
that's literally what we do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're
That's a
like you try and
huge
go to
part
the
of what we do.
yeah
So it's
picture.
really important to address the human and understand them at a human level, their core wounds, core beliefs, and how they interact with their core aspirations. And do their beliefs match up with their core aspirations? Do their core values match up with their core aspirations or goals? Because if they don't, you're going to mess up like somewhere along the way.
Right,
Mishap, mess up, combo there. There was so again, it's really, really valuable to know the goal because then you can reverse engineer what matters.
right,
So we take through people through that all the time. What's the goal? Okay, so who are the top three people then now, even in your life, that are going to help you get to this goal? Because everyone else needs to take a step back.
right.
They need to be have less influence on you, for example. Okay, what ideas, what persons, places, things? Because as soon as you have this goal, it dictates what actually matters versus what we can let go of. It's such a beautiful map that you can create for people, but it's really important to honor the human along the way. What is their level of self-belief? What is their level of self-worth when it comes to this thing? What do they need to be consistent on habit-wise to get to the goal? And what is their ability to be consistent? And if it's not very good, then we need to make it really small and really sustainable. So the reverse engineering thing is really, really powerful, but you have to, it's like a feedback loop. You have to know
Mhm.
both.
Yeah, constantly be going back through and addressing.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I got one more question I'd like to ask everyone, which is what is something that you used to believe to be true that you no longer do?
Mm, there are so many.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with my biggest one. I used to believe that I wasn't as valuable as I was. I always undervalued myself and very much so, and hid my excellence. And that was one of the greatest things that I healed and worked through was building self-worth. I always had high self-belief. You're someone who also I can just peg as high self-belief. Self-worth was really low. I believed in the things I could achieve, but self-worth was really, really low. I didn't believe I was necessarily worthy of them or of being the person who can show up and do those things, front
Right.
facing. And so growing my self-worth by running everything through a filter of does this increase or decrease my self-respect?
Hmm.
That's a huge one because that's not always the easy choice. Does it increase or decrease my self-respect every time I hang out with this person?
Hmm.
Oh crap, it decreases it. Am I going to work out today or not? Ah, I have to choose the workout because the workout is the harder choice, but it's also the self-respect choice.
Right.
And so I used to believe that I wasn't worthy of being celebrated, supported, all of these different things. And healing my self-worth and healing myself in that way shifted that. And now my life is entirely different.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Mhm.
very beautiful. I really like that. And then Amy, if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best place to do that?
Probably just Facebook and Instagram. I'm a very simplistic social media being. Those are the two platforms that I've put my flag on. I barely understand the rest of them. And it's just at Amy Lenius. And it's me answering you back in my DMs. I love chatting self-belief, self-worth, consistency, and what your version of success is and helping you paint that picture. But I'm happy to answer DMs anytime. Like I said, it's me. It's not AI. It's not anything like that. And even first calls with me to help paint that map or connect with core beliefs and things is free always.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and it was very fun and insightful. And yeah, look forward to chatting again.
Same, Alex. Thank you so much.
Okay.